And the revenue streams include bed nights, food and beverage levies, annual business permit, motor vehicle stickers, public health licenses, and legal licenses. I need to mention there that we are trying to see whether we can have one permit instead of having many permits. But for now, that is what we have provided as asked by the statement.
I'm looking at the list of lodges which has been presented, and I was hoping that I could see at least a copy of the lease agreement between Mara Serena Safari, Little Governors, Kikorok, Sarova, Main Governors, Ashnil, at least to see these lodges, which the governor and I both know that they are old, and they were there even before him and I were born. Apart from Ashnil came in later, but there is a lease agreement between Ole Kina and the Narok County government. So at least of the four, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And then number 7 as well, which is private governors. Is it? Because there's main governors and there's little governors. Correct. So I would have expected to see those leases. The rest, I understand that the response given is satisfactory, but the response is not satisfactory in as much as it deals with number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I think, let me look at this very well. And then there is also number 30, which is Mara Bush Camp Lodge. So my question to the governor is, where are the lease agreements between these 6? I understand the rest you are negotiating, but where are these ones? At least I would have expected to see copies of the lease agreement between the Mara Serena, Little Governors, Kikorok Lodge, Sarova, Mara Main Governors, and Ashnil.
Indeed, as he has rightly put it, that even before we were born, these 7 lodges, or actually 8, had a lease already signed by the defunct county councils. And therefore, from my understanding, was that the question that was asked by the senator is the new leases, because our assumption was that the committee knows that these leases have been there for even 50, 60 years, and they are owned by the Narok County government. But we have that list. We have the list of the 7 lodges, and we can provide whenever this committee needs. Unfortunately, our understanding of the question was that the new camps that have come in between what Senator Seki was talking about when the devolved units came in. The reason why it is taking time for us to go through these standardized lists, it was because through a management plan that we have put in place since I came in, that we wanted to standardize lists of all the camps. So previously, we did not have any list between Narok County government and the proprietors. And therefore, it is taking time because those people have been there for the last 10 years or even 15 years. But for now, we are trying to see whether we can standardize to the level of the old leases that we have had. But of course, we are changing the mode of payment, and even now, even following the PFM Act as well articulated. For Senator Asige, question, indeed we have not. July 2022, I came in August after the election, and therefore there was nothing that was done before that time. So that is why, again, we are trying to see that with all the proprietors that are in Maasai Mara, we can negotiate with them, because again, they had some sort of like arrangement before, which was not legally binding to us or even to them. And that is why we are trying to negotiate, because again, tourism industry is very sensitive. You don't want to go tell, a proprietor or an investor that you just want to throw them away immediately. You want to sort of like, because we need that, we need those camps, because they're bringing money to the county government and also Kenya in general. So this is a very sensitive industry, and I know because you members are members of the tourism committee, that we are really trying to negotiate with them without really putting a lot of effort or a lot of pressure on them. And most of them actually agree with our standard lease. So I want to confirm here with the Senator Mandago and Senator Ledama that indeed these leases are there, and they are ready. I can provide to the committee whenever is required.
Just to comment slightly before I get into the issue of interrogating the submissions, it will be very different on how we deal with the issue of Maasai Mara. Because Maasai Mara, the Kenya Tourism Federation collects 2% of the hotel levy, but everything else goes to the county because it is a private, the Maasai Mara belongs to Narok County government. So I think the way you would handle that, Mr. Chairman, is a bit different with the way you would handle national parks, because this is completely different. Because I think when it comes to the issue of properties, they will pay their rates, they will pay whatever needs to be paid in terms of their taxes, but I think it would be impossible to require them all to pay to a particular area before it goes in. So you may want to look at that. Having said that, the query that we asked, which is query number 2, in terms of the lease agreement, I'm happy that the government will provide them in 7 days, the lease agreements which already exist. And in the same query, we had asked for the obligations of the proprietors to the residents of Narok County. So at the very least, I would expect a spreadsheet to show the obligations of these lease agreements. And if it is there, maybe the governor can point us to where that obligation is there, because that's a query that Senator Mandago asked, and that's a query that I wanted to expound on or write on. Because when I read the response, it says we are still negotiating with some tourist facilities. I'm glad to hear that it is some, not all. Number 2, we also have an issue where those old lease agreements which are there, they do have an obligatory. And we will have to go after them later, Mr. Chairman, so that they can give us a list of what they have been paying to the county government. Because if they have not been paying the bed night, then we will require them to pay the bed night, so that we know how much has Serena paid, how much has Kikorok paid, how much has Sarova paid. So we need that list so that we are able to define the obligations. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope that following this meeting, the next meeting we're going to have is of those proprietors, to be able to go and follow each one of them to get a list of what they've been given. So maybe you can direct that the county provides a spreadsheet, and if it is in this attachment, to provide, to send us a copy of it. And finally on that, Mr. Chairman, I would like, within the 7 days that the governor has requested, for you to also direct that we are provided with clear copies. Because when I read Appendix 3, there's something which is of interest to me here that could mean danger for our people, where there is a Land Registration Act. If you look at Appendix 3, and my sister VIP, I'll probably just try to point it to you, where it is dated, you can barely see anything, but there is a 3rd of August 2022, which is Hyatt Hotel International Limited, a foreign company registered in Kenya, and Muthu AH Limited, a foreign company registered in Kenya, where it says the transfer of the legal owner hereby transfers all its rights, title, and interest in the above title, together with the rights and obligations contained in the further variation of lease dated 26 March 2012, and registered in the Narok Land Registry 26. So we'd have to be very careful so that we don't find a situation where Muthu goes in and charges that title because that title belongs to the people of Narok. And now that we have not seen a lease agreement between Narok County and Muthu, I think if we are provided with clearer information, we'll be able to dissect and get to know in terms of legally speaking. And I'd want to hear from the legal person of Narok County whether he has looked at all these documents, together with the county secretary, whether they have looked at these documents, because submitting documents which are not clear. Like right now, for instance, a very good one is a PIN certificate. You cannot barely, I'm wearing glasses, even when I remove the glasses, I can't see. When I wear the glasses, I cannot see. I don't know whether the governor can see that. So, Mr. Chairman, my two questions to be substantiated by or to be answered.
The way we are now working as a county government, we treat the 30 wards as part and parcel of Narok County. Therefore, they get the same benefits, be it bursaries, be it development. It comes from there because, again, the local revenue is very important for us. So the rights are there, and from where we sit, we think that the community this time around is getting their share. Thank you. The other question that the senator asked about the copies, my apology on that. I don't know, it looked like some copies are clearer and some are not, but we are going to provide the clear copies because they are very clear in terms of even the agreement that Honorable Senator was alluding to on the issue of the IT hotels and Muthu hotels. I think for me, having grown up in Maasai Mara, this Kekorok Lodge has changed hands more than 10 times. Therefore, normally in normal cases, you know, companies meet and the company is probably going down. They want to sell their share. For us as the county government, we have no obligation because as far as they pay the percentage to the county government, then we have no issue as who will take over, provided that we make sure that that company is registered in Kenya, and also if that company, we can verify whether they are able to run the facilities, because we also don't want our facilities to be run out. So, and all these are done before I came in. The 7 or the 8 leases, those are leases that have been there for as long as we, you know, I remember. So, I think we are ready to provide that within 1 week. We can provide the information that Senator Ledama wants.
Chair, I think maybe to add on that, if you allow me, I think we may request the governor to provide all the leases from inception, from wilderness, which was the wildlife lodges, wilderness, which was the first proprietor way back in the 40s, coming all the way to the changes that happened up to 1979, the changes that happened, the governor knows, the changes that came in when Kamlesh Patni came in with his company, and then subsequently up to Muthu, so that we can follow through and to see the difference.
Most obliged, Honorable Senator, I think this is something that I'll have to go back to 1963 when Jomo Kenyatta opened Kekorok Lodge, because it was the first one. I will do my best to see whether I can retrieve all those documents. But the Senator is right, because he knows, come from that county, and all of us. It's not something that anybody, we have that history. And I will endeavor to provide the information that is required by this committee. I request, therefore, that you write a letter to me indicating exactly, you know, from which year can we start, because, as I have said, since before dependent.
Yes, the query that the chair is asking is on the search documents. That the search which was presented, one is dated the 27th, and it shows a different proprietor. The other one is dated 23rd, shows a different proprietor. So I think that's a clarity that we're seeking on the searches, not in terms of the lease agreements.
Honorable Chair,
Proceed.
And members of the committee, yes, it's true that the two searches are different. The first search indicates that the principal lessor was Wildlife Lodges, while the second one indicates that the lessor, the lessee, is Hyatt International. If you go to the records, the initial or the person that the county government gave the lease to was Wildlife Lodges, way back in 2002. And this company transferred the lease to the second company, which is now Hyatt Hotels. And before that lease expired, they again transferred to the third company, or second company, which is Hyatt. And then again, before it expired, it gave to now Muthu. So we have three companies. And that's why even in the white card and the green cards in the lands registry, we have all these entries, but within one transaction, which was the principal lessee, which is now the Wildlife Lodges. So basically, the reason why you see the mix-up is because the initial lease never expired. It was for 33 years from 2002, which is supposed to end at in 2034. So basically, the reason why you see that discrepancy is because the principal lease between the county government and Wildlife Lodges is still on, but only happened that it was transferred when these two or three companies came together and agreed to have the lease transferred.
There is still a case between the Wildlife Lodges and a head still going on in court over why did the county council give out the lease before the other one ended. So that case is still alive in court as we speak.
You know, when you say a lease is transferred between one party to another party, and they are not the proprietors, they are not the owners of the land, it requires consent for that transaction to be done. Have you provided proof of consent? Because that worries me a lot, that I can now come and lease this space here in Parliament and say that I'm going to use this space to hold meetings. And it is going to be me doing that. And then tomorrow, I lease it to the governor, or I lease it to the chair. And then it continues without the consent of Parliament. So those are the things that I need to clarify. Because then, before you realize, you are out of the game, and the people who are operating are just these people who are masquerading as the owners of the properties. Because I'm concerned, Mr. Chairman, on this particular document presented here as a copy from Muthu. I think it's on Muthu's. There's a valuation form from Hyatt. There's that transfer of lease, which is 038, that transfers everything from Hyatt to Muthu. I'm sure there's something else from Kamlesh Patni to whoever else is there. Where is our interest as Narok County? That is my concern.
Remember, we are dealing with historical issues, and the former county councils and then now the former administration, we are just presenting you things the way they are. But also, the county government also must have gone through all what was required by law to make sure that they transfer from these, from one company to another. But I understand where Senator of Narok is coming from. And I had the same question, that, whether due diligence was done. But because, again, these are things that, I got from the office. I'm just giving you the raw information that I have in my office. Again, some of these leases run to even 33 years. And sometimes to try to interfere with the leases becomes, cases that will take the county government forever. But I hear what the senator is asking, and we will endeavor to give out the information that we have as far as we are concerned as a county government.
This issue of Kikorok has been a thorn in the flesh. Ethics and Anti-Corruption have been investigating the matter of the fraudulent transfer of the lease, and what the governor found, and this is why I hope that we can be able to resolve this matter, is that over 7 years, Ethics and Anti-Corruption have been dealing with this matter. So the committee has got to give directions on how we proceed with this matter of Kikorok. Because there's a lot that is not being said that leads a lot to be desired when it comes to the issue of how that lease has been transferred. Because if the legal request for the green card, it may not even be available. So my concern would be, what can we do to correct? Because, you know, we are going to be dealing with a matter which has been investigating. In fact, there was a time when there was a hostile takeover of that property, and I'm sure the chairperson, substantive chair, was the county secretary of Narok, and there was a hostile takeover by GSC who came in, and they took over the lease when Patney was the owner of the lease. Before it was transferred, it was sold into Hyatt. So we need to look at that, and now coupled with the fact that, and maybe legal can be able to help us in this matter, that issue of where the lease is transferred without the county being notified. And it is written in the lease that you cannot transfer without notifying. This is something which I don't know how, Mr. Chairman, you want to proceed, but ultimately I'd want that we cooperate to resolve this matter, to find the best way possible so that the people of Narok get their money. Because I can assure you, Mr. Chairman, if we proceed and demand for the records of the payments of money, and this is why I was saying I would like you to give directions, that after this meeting, we're having a meeting with these lodges, you know, which is Kikorok, which is Sarova, which is Serena, which is Ashnil. They come here, they provide documents of what they have been paying. You will find that they have not been paying.
Okay, Senator, legal counsel and the clerk, I direct that, yes, I'll give you time. I direct that we put all these issues together and we write to the governor so that he provides the information as you've just put it and what Senator Ole Kina has asked.
Lodges and restaurants mean that they have 50 and above a bed night. And that is the one that Senator Ledama was referring, Kiakorok, Serena, those old lodges. Now the new camps are what we call eco-lodges. Eco-lodges are those ones that have small, fewer number of beds in that hotel, between 1 to 19. We call them eco camps. And then eco-lodges are the ones that have 20 to 50, and then the lodges 50 to 100. And the reason why we have control, you cannot, we are managing, Senator, we are managing an ecosystem. We are managing wildlife. Unlike our good friends from Mombasa, where they are managing a beach, where you're just selling the water. We are very careful on how many camps can be built within Maasai Mara. That's why actually we have put a stop. We think the ones we have are enough, because during high season, you'll see so many vehicles, so many clients coming there. We want to reduce the number so that we also don't disturb wildlife that are in that park. Indeed, we have the consent. Indeed, we have the consent where the county government normally give a consent before any new appropriator is given to take over the lodge. So we do have those documents. I think it was not part of the question, but if the committee require, we can provide that.
The information which is available to me suggests that on the 28th of August 2003, there was a 30-year lease signed between Narok County Council and Wildlife Lodges Limited. So that was signed on the 28th of August 2003. And there is a history, because before that, the first, this goes back to 1948, when the colonial administration established the wildlife sanctuary, covering the Mara Triangle and around the Kenya independence. So we come all the way down to 1982 when there was a lease. And then 1987 when there was that lease which was signed. But then there was a variation of the lease. And that's why I'm saying, if we can get this variation of the lease, what I'm interested in the following items. One, there is money which is supposed to have been paid to Narok County Council, which has not been paid. There is money which is supposed to have been paid to Narok County Government, which has not been paid. By wilderness, Because if you look at, even in the document submitted by the governor, Kikorok Lodges has the highest capacity of beds, which is 240. So when you look at it, even if it is at $40 a night, and you give it a bed capacity for a year of about 45%, that's a lot of money that needs to be followed. So, Governor, I don't think it would be satisfactory to say that you can only provide us with information, because the Constitution is quite clear. You know, in terms of how accountability and how people are responsible. Because these are people who are domiciled in an area that you control. So what, Mr. Chairman, I would suggest and I would request that the committee does is that it requests the county government to provide this lease agreement, because it is there. The lease agreement, which was signed on the 28th of August 2003 for 30 years between Wilderness and the Narok County Council then. Then we can now come in and look at what is also being provided here, because we have a few things which are provided here. And then, because by then, if you notice, the title deed that had been presented for Kikorok Lodge was registered under Koyaki Group Ranch. And there is also an extended title deed for the entire Maasai Mara. So this was done that, and it's a property that is owned by the county council, and also now owned by the county government. So we need to be able to follow through this and ensure that this administration now corrects, put it right, so that whatever is being paid by Muthu, we don't entertain those court cases which these guys are dealing with. You know, we cannot allow a hostile takeover of our property. So that is my concern, because that is there for us to support our community. We have a legal obligation, a fiduciary duty, to ensure that whatever is owned by the county benefits the people of Narok County. So, Mr. Chairman, I would request that we get the history, a chronological, of how things changed. And even if ESCC has been dealing with this matter for 7 years, we have the powers to summon ESCC to this committee to come and present information on what they have reached. If the matter is just being investigated upon, then we direct Narok County government to demand payment from these people. Because it's a lot of money. It's millions and millions of shillings that it can be able to support our economy. So really, these leases, if you go back, in fact, I'm particularly interested with the lease which was signed on the 20th of August 2003, granting Wilderness 30 years. So that now we come in and we see the other leases which have been signed between Hyatt. How did Hyatt come in the picture? How did Muthu come in the picture without Narok County government knowing? And I'm not saying the governor knew because he came in and he found them there, but we have to correct it.
Indeed, since I came in, and again, the issue that he's asking, how did the IT came in and how did the other, companies came in, it's there. Historically, we can really give you the history. But as far as the money is concerned, how much has been paid so far by Kekoro, we have made sure, as the new administration, in 2023, Kekoro Lodge paid 19,555,295. Senator Ledam, I don't know whether you can refer to Appendix 7, and you can follow. Just go to the column of Kekoro. And then year 2023, they paid 60 million. And the year 2024, they are now supposed to pay. Because again, they had an agreement where there is the percentage that they pay, for the county government. So for us, right now, as far as we are concerned, when we came in, they have started paying what they are supposed to be paid. And that's a lot of money, as they are saying, that is coming to our county. And the rest of when you look at that list, the appendix that I've given, it's now that we are implementing fully that every lodge, every ecosystem, eco camp, they pay their dues as required. And that is why we are now waiting for 2024 so that they can pay. But they have already paid for the last 1.5 years that I have been in office. So again, I agree with the senator. This issue of Kekok, I don't know about whether the lodge has been cited in ACC. I'm not aware of that. But if they are, it's also an independent institution that can also follow up on what happened. But as far as I'm concerned, all this has been done before I came in. I'm just trying to now correct the mistakes that have been done before I came in.
This issue of the leases, I want to encourage the county government to immediately move fast so that everything is standardized. But then the CC Finance has just brought in another issue which would be of concern to me and legal. I don't know how you're going to deal with this matter, where you say there are existing lease agreements between Narok County Council and the beneficiaries. How are you able to standardize that? Because you see, it's a negotiation process. You indicated in your responses that you are negotiating to do this. You're negotiating, but at the same time, we are also losing money as a county because they are not paying. How are you able to bring all those things together so that that payment is made? Because when I look at here, it really shocks me. If you look at a camp like Enkewa camp or Salas camp, let's take Enkewa as an example. You look at the amount of money they pay is 60,000 shillings. That is less than $400. And I know the Enkewa camp, how much money they make, how many tourists they bring. You know. So really, you know, Mr. Chairman, ultimately, we may want to vary, and I didn't want to vary the query, but it would be important to know how much each of these camps brings in for themselves, so that we see whether it translates back into the community. Because if you see that they're only paying 60,000, what is 60,000 shillings for a camp that is making millions of dollars? So that is my biggest concern, that it is not equal. You know, there are some people who are allowed to pay, there are some people who are benefiting, who comes in. If you look at all this camp, Mara Eden camp, Enkewa camp, Salas camp. So, Mr. Chairman, and maybe with your secretariat, we can sit back and relook at this so that we know which camps to be able to visit and demand for documentation. Because there's a lot of Mickey Mouse games with the camps, and we just need to end that. So that if these standardized leases are going to be there, it is something that legal you need to find out to balance. How do you balance with the existing leases and now the new leases?
Thank you. If you are in my shoes, when I came in August 2022, that is exactly the anomalies that I got in my office. And that is why I came out with the management plan. And there is, you know, what the senator is saying is true, that everybody was doing their own things. But right now, the reason why you see now the county government has put measures so that by 1st of July, everybody now will be standardized. That's why I keep on saying standardized list. Standardized meaning that you will now be paid what everybody else is paying in that park, because you are enjoying the same facilities and you are enjoying the same ecosystem. And by the way, since we started collecting this money, you know, just immediately after, I think it was in April or this year, the ones that have really come out and they have started signing, I want everybody to sign this standardized agreement by 1st of July. If you have not, then you have no business in Mara. Because again, you are, what you're doing is others are doing the right thing, you are not doing the right thing. So I want to give comfort to my senator that after 1st of July, you will not hear about this monkey business in Mara. We are going to put things in the right way, and everything will work the way we want it, and the county government will be able to benefit from the local revenue, because that is a resource that has not been utilized properly over the year.
And in fact, what I know is that the scientists argue that wildlife sort of like stay away from a 2-kilometer radius of human, settlements. So which means if there are too many camps, of course, it will continue reducing the number of wildlife coming into the Mara. And as a mere fact, the number of migrations have halved in the last 10 years, and it's continued dwindling down. So that's an issue that Narok County has got to take into consideration to see how to deal with that issue. Because within the next few years, the scientists have clearly shown that the migrations will be heavily affected, and that will affect, the economy of the Mara. I've come across a lot of studies, and to be honest with you, And I think maybe this is where I would agree with the county government when they say that you need to find a solution on these standardized leases, but you have to also ask the question of the legality aspect of it. If already there's an existing lease, and then you're coming in with a standardized lease, you have to build up a lot of scientific backing to be able to support that. Otherwise, we cannot have a lot of camp mushrooming. If you take the map now with the coordinates that you've given us and we spread them as a map, it's like Kibera, to tell you the truth. And I think the CEO, I was doing the calculation here, what you provided, yes, could amount to that, but the bed capacity in the Mara and the surrounding of Mara is about 5,000. So it is more than the 1,800 that you've cited. So I think we need to be able to be clear on the way forward. How do you negotiate this lease agreement and you're able to back it scientifically so that the camps that remains there become beneficial to the community, you know? And also we avoid litigations because a lot of this will follow. You cannot tell me now you're going to do away with my lease and you come up with a new lease without showing me why you're doing that. So I think, Mr. Chairman, it is something that we may need to look into it and see how this committee can be able to support, you know, that. And the only way to do it is through what I told you, that we now summon all of them, we go through their payments of records, have they been paying? Then some of them will just pack and go because of what will come out. And maybe there we'll be able to end up benefiting.
It is because we realized that there were no lease completely. Only 7 out of the 49 had a proper legal document. That is why we now want to standardize and now put it to be legally binding between us and the county government. I think that's what I can say. And for Mheshimiwa, the benefits to the community, we are also working very closely with the community. That is why, again, this document was well, you know, people really talked about this document for the last 10 years, the management plan I'm talking about. I've just come in and passed it because it was a nightmare. Nobody wanted to touch this document.
Mheshimiwa Ledama, closing remarks. 2 minutes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, let me thank the county government for responding to the queries, albeit some of them needs to be answered to be able to support this committee deliver its mandate. One of the reasons why I brought up these queries is because I know there are a lot of issues in the Mara that needs to be corrected. The issue of standardized leases is an issue that I support, and it should cut across 100%, but we also have to be careful when it comes to the issue of the legality. How do we deal with the issue of the legality of the new leases vis-a-vis the other lease agreements which were there? It is also important that we are able to maintain a fiduciary responsibility when it comes to accounting for all the resources that are paid by these lodges. So, Mr. Chairman, it will be important that we'll meet further to deliberate so that we know what information to request from each of the lodges for them to provide as payment. Because there is interest here, and some of the interest had been alluded to by my colleague who is the chair of health, who had to go to that committee, Senator Mandago, that there's money which is paid to the national government and money which is paid to the county government. So once we follow through, and I hope that, Mr. Chairman, you will pursue to get all these other companies so that we have a record of what is due to the national government and what is due to the county government and also the Tourism Federation. It is also important that we get all the clearer documents submitted to us. I would request that some of these documents they are provided, they are also provided in soft copy for the benefit of our sister who is visually impaired. And the question, in fact, one of the questions that she had asked, which I think it would be important to be included, is is there any complaint mechanism where the community can reach out now that there's no act? The issue raised by Senator Amtata in terms of setting up an act of parliament or an act of the assembly that manages the park is something which I think the county government ought to take it seriously. I am also concerned about the effect of the camps with the migration. There are a lot of issues. And finally, Mr. Chairman, the issue of Kikorok Lodge. This is a thorn in the flesh. It's something which needs a lot of thorough work to be done, because there's a lot that needs to be desired when it comes to on how each of these leases change hands. So, Mr. Chairman, I hope that with your secretariat, we can go through all the different stages, and I'm happy to provide enough information as I can so that we resolve this matter. So whatever information is due to be presented, I hope that the county government can do so within the next 7 days to support this movement. Because finally, that issue of the transfer of leases from one company to another without the consent of the county government is fraud, and it has to be dealt the way it is. I thank you, Mr. Chairman.
So I want to conclude this matter, and I thank Mheshimiwa Ledama for almost summarizing everything that we have already discussed. I don't want to repeat all these other issues that has been addressed. The Secretariat will give a comprehensive letter to you on what we have discussed today, what we have agreed, and you will submit it within 14 days. We'll give you another 1 week so that you're able to go and conclude, at least work out on everything that we have discussed. And then thereafter, I suggest, I don't know, members, if we have to call them again, or we can proceed to have the lodges that we want, but we can release the county according to, I think, Mheshimiwa Ledama, I think we can release them, but if they can produce everything that we have discussed, then we can give them a chance to do other activities, but not unless you just give us what we want. If you don't get what we want exactly, we'll have to call you back. But if you can provide everything that we have said, then we can work out on that and proceed to request the proprietors and the owners of these major hotels to appear before this committee for purposes of the county and the people of Narok County. So I think, Mheshimiwa Ledama, I think we are on the same page, on the same.